All right, what up YouTube? Hope so. This is video number 7, I think, out of like 10 or 11, but do me a favor guys, drop a comment below and let me know what you guys think about this mini series. If you guys would like to see Dan come back on the show and us to keep this thing going, drop a comment below because I'm loving this content and I'm having a blast like educating you guys and talking with Dan and learning more about where the industry is going. So today we're gonna dive deep into interchain operability. What does it actually mean when a cryptocurrency can actually bridge to another ecosystem? How critical is that? How important is that? What does it actually mean? And we're gonna dive deep down the rabbit hole, guys. So I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Make sure you guys swing over to Flux's Twitter and check them out at RunOnFlux, and swing over and check out Dan, DAK_Flux. Show him some love, tell him that I sent you. This video is for entertainment purposes only. I'm not a financial advisor. I do not advise that you buy, sell, trade, or hodl any cryptocurrency. You always need to consult with your own financial advisor before making any investing decisions. That being said,
you know, Cadena doesn't need a layer 2. Why? Because they have Flux, right? Solana would not need a layer 2 because they have, if they would like to use this Flux, right? So there are other projects that are already building components on top of these layer 1 network to almost act as wetlands. I heard Will from KDA say this, and I kind of adopted it. You know, wetlands, or not only that, like progress areas where people are building on these layer 2 platforms that then interact with all the layer 2s and then into the layer 1. So that's a lot of tech talk, but what it means is this: it means that chains can work together, interchain operability, to create and deliver a unified platform that is Web 3.0, right? So we, as crypto folks, look at the crypto aspect of it, but we need to stop looking at that. We need to look at the bigger tech sector. So whether it's financial technology, or it's healthcare, or it's supply chain, or it's whatever it is you add on top of it, what we are creating is the framework, the delivery model for these particular things to be able to propagate. When Bezos started selling books, people laughed at him. They said, nobody's going to buy books on the internet. And he hoped they would, right? But what he did was he took his first investment and he helped build a framework that would deliver these things, right? And then he partnered with people. People often think of Amazon as this, this one entity that kind of hangs up there. They're partnered with resellers and people all over the globe, right?
They spent like $10 billion or something crazy mapping out, figuring a way for UPS drivers to only make right turns, and it increased the UPS delivery. It decreased the actual fuel spend by UPS by like 35% overnight, and they figured out a way to route UPS drivers so that they never have to make a left on their routes. Isn't that that's just something so simple? Like, wow, man.
Well, not only that, the United States Postal Service doesn't run on Sundays, but guess what? I'm standing outside and here comes the postal truck with a different mailman that's usually, I know the mailman, and wave at him and say hello to him, and that's not the mailman. And guess what? That's not mail in the back of it. It's Amazon products, So they partnered with the Postal Service to use their infrastructure on the off days so that they could deliver packages more effectively, right? And so in the end, we have these projects that are pioneering and leading different pieces. And in the end, we're all going to be working on the same delivery framework. You know what I mean? We're all going to get there round about the same time.
I think Flux is the most interoperable blockchain in the industry right now. I think that you guys are, any project that wants to bridge or be a part of with Flux, you guys can make that happen in the shortest amount of time. You guys add value to every single project. Unless you're already like an identical thing to Flux, becoming a partner of Flux or interacting with Flux makes their project more decentralized and better. It's like, that's why I keep telling everybody, like, I can't even keep up with everything you guys have going on, because you guys can innovate so fast that it's like an idea comes across your radar and it's like, boom, 2 weeks later, you got that thing. It's in real world. It's up and running on Flux. It's mind blowing, man. And I think that's what Web3 is. It's scalability, it's innovation, it's decentralization at its finest. And you guys are, it just makes everything better to me. That's why I wanna promote so badly for Cadena and for CADX, because CADX going on to Flux is going to set that bar. If CADX becomes the best and most successful DEX that's cross-chain, that becomes the industry standard. And people start going, okay, CADX did so well. Is it because they are fully decentralized? Yeah, I think it is. You know what I'm saying? So if CADX wins, this industry wins. If Cadena wins, this industry wins. And if those two projects win, it's because of Flux helped take them there and kept them that. And that's what the industry needs to realize, that it might not be about the 100x gain today. but a guaranteed 50x gain over the next a year, 2 years is such a great investment. And that if you do that and it works and everybody wins in it, it's going to make everybody win in everything that's decentralized. But if people keep running to the quick, 100x gains on Solana because it's whatever, like it might help your pocketbook, but you're going to end up in a fiat-based world again, where the rich get richer and people are going to be printing coins out of thin air, and down goes your portfolio. You know what I'm saying? Like that.
Yep. Yeah. One thing that I always kid around with the guys about is we may not have Tom Brady and Giselle, but what we have is our community who are tried and true and relentless, right?
Yep.
When we gave away 1 million Flux, which is, at ATH is almost $3 million to the community for marketing and PR and development. Those folks were the ones that went out and pounded the pavement, did the hard work. And as a matter of fact, I credit the Binance listing to the outreach of these educated community members. Could we have spent $3 million on Tom Brady? Probably, probably. Who would want to do that? Like, I understand why Solana did it. And by the way, I really do appreciate what Solana's doing, making crypto like for every day. Like, it's more acceptable and palatable the way they're approaching it, because it feels more like a legacy system.
Yep.
But if I had money to spend, I'm going to spend it on the people that are participating with the network and growing it out, right?
Yep.
That's how I envision you being successful. I do agree. I think you had a very good point about interchain operability. I do agree Flux is probably the most, it has the highest level of interchain operability out there. Just in December, we deployed Solana and Tron on the network, and we saw immediately, as Tron was released and then Solana will be released the 26th, we saw all these pieces just go into motion. Like, people just ran out and they started doing liquidity pools, and they started doing, all these different DeFi components. All of a sudden I'm getting these messages about how do we do this and how do we do that. The community is coming alive with, these different pieces. We can do these things because very early on we committed to being an agile environment. So, we don't have meetings for the sake of having meetings. We don't have endless 50-mile CC emails.
Yep.
If you want to talk to the CSO of Flux and Zelcore, you come to Discord, you say, hey, Dan. We've instituted people's suggestions within a day. Like, somebody came in and said, hey, I have a suggestion to make Zelcore a little bit better. Or could we see something like this on the Flux operating system? And we'll put the pull request in for the next day, like, if it makes sense. So we're constantly, the ability for us to innovate is the fact that our community is understanding we are going to break things. It's just how it's going to happen.
Not trying hard enough if you don't, man.
Yeah, we've bricked a chain before a few years ago. 11 o'clock at night, I had about 5 beers in me, and, we were watching the fork. It just kind of landed in that. And it was so funny because most of the Flux folks were all together in Colorado. It was myself and Tadeish and all these different guys that were on the project were in one place, and this happened. And we happened to be doing it live. You know what I mean? So we had 600 or 700 people that were watching this unfold and how we fixed it, right? Because, we broke it, and they got to watch the process of us iterating through it and figuring out, okay, troubleshooting, okay, what are the options here? How do we get the chain rolling again?
Yep.
Okay, let's deploy this on the testnet and see whether or not it works. Okay, didn't work on testnet, can't deploy on main. All right, what about this change? And what about this change? 4 hours later, the chain started to move, right?
Oh, yeah,
and everybody got to experience that whole scenario. And so we don't pull curtains back. We're very transparent about it. If something happens or we break something, we'll tell you. We dropped a Flux OS update not long ago that broke the whole network and dropped like half the nodes. And we're like, yeah, we kind of messed up. You know what I mean? And everybody was super understanding, and they're like, okay, what's the fix? Okay, we're going to release the fix. Just run this, get your node back up, and your view online. That is built in our ethos and our expectation. And like you said earlier, we talking about ETH and their failure to move. The expectation is if we don't move, then that's a failure, right?
Yep.
If we're not developing and we're not innovating and we're not creating and we're not challenging the standard SOP, then we're not doing what we set out on this mission to do. And the community are the folks that hold us accountable to that. I mean, really, that's what it comes down to with Web 3.0, Ryan. You know, if I had to summarize what Web 3.0 will be, is opportunity. It's opportunity for whether you're a full stack dev who doesn't know anything about crypto to be able to start standing up and deploying applications in a decentralized manner, or whether you're a website designer who's tired of paying massive hosting bills. We had a guy that came to us. He hosts like over 250 websites, and he says, you know, I have these 250 websites I host. Can I host these on Flux? And I'm like, yep. He's like, what's it going to cost me? I'm like, nothing. And he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, nothing. He goes, how's that even possible? And I'm like, well, it's possible, and this is why. And I explained to him that, you know, the infrastructure was ran by the network. They were already incentivized. It's basically like having other people you pay for your computational resources, you know? And he about had a heart attack and has since deployed several websites on Flux, and, you know, is eventually going to work his entire portfolio into Flux as well. So
and that's why I have a hard time like trying to make price predictions on Flux, because you guys give everything away for free. In this interview was the first time that I've ever heard you said something about I paid $200 in Flux to submit a proposal. I think that's the first time I've ever heard us talk about like Flux generating revenue.
Oh, Flux is if you want to talk about a revenue generation model, Flux is a juggernaut.
I believe it, man. All right, YouTube, so that's a wrap. Had to teach you guys a little bit there at the end. We're gonna dive into Flux business model in the next video. So we're gonna talk about how Flux generates revenue and why Flux is going to be a massive dominating player in this space. So special shout out to Dan, special shout out to Flux, special shout out to everybody that goes out of their way to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I can't thank you guys enough. Hopefully you guys are having a great 2022 and you guys are all crushing it. Love you guys, can't wait to see you guys in the next video. Peace.